Greetings, friends. Dennis LaRue here, your weekly wingman with your hashtag steeltoesrequired quote of the week. And I believe this week is number 47. I'll tell you what, my counting, I'm going to have to go back to school, work on my math skills. But hey, Melanie, I see you there. I'm glad you're here, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This week's quote, I'll tell you what, this week's quote fires me up. Hello, Melanie. So glad you're here. Because it's from one of the most fierce competitors ever that I've ever come across or read about. I've seen some of his races on YouTube. I wish I could have seen him actually race being a runner. But his name is Steve Prefontaine. We've brought him up before. I'm bringing him back up again. Steve Prefontaine, book Pre by Tom Jordan. Great book you need. For my runners out there, if you haven't read it, it's a must read. His mindset is incredible. His competitive fire is incredible. And me, competition is my number one of my top 5 strength finders strengths. I just love Prefontaine. He fires me up. As a matter of fact, when I think of Steve Prefontaine, I want to go lace up my running shoes right now and get out on the roads and go out for a run. But my physical therapist would not be happy with me because I'm right now rehabbing a right knee and my running is no running for me. So that's how fired up I get when I think about Steve Prefontaine. But his quote this week is powerful when you see the meaning behind it. So here it is. Here comes the quote. Here it is. He said this: "Somebody may beat me, but they're going to have to bleed to do it." Let that sink in. Somebody may beat me, but they're going to have to bleed to do it. Whew. Did you feel that? I'll tell you what, I've got goosebumps on my arm right now because of that quote. It just, again, it makes me want to go lace up those shoes and go, because that just fires me up. Because, you see, while it's a competitive spirit that he's talking about, you know what he realizes right away? That his number one competitor is himself. He knows that when he gets on the line, when Prefontaine gets to the line to run his race, he goes from start to finish all out. He gives 100% maximum effort every time he's on the race. And so few runners could go with him. Fewer could stay with him. And very few, even fewer of those, could actually beat him. He hardly ever lost a race. He owned every American record, I believe, from the 2 mile to 10,000 meters, to the 6 mile. So, and it was because of that fierce drive to compete against himself. Now, his times didn't improve with each race, but every race he ran his best race. Now, let's bring it to us here in the tribe. What does that look like for us? And it's really simple. Your number one competitor, whether business or anything else, is you. Are you going all out? Remember last week's quote, exhaust yourself for the mission? Steve Prefontaine lived that out. Every race, he would cross the finish line, exhausted. Go look up images of Steve Prefontaine and you'll see pictures of him in his zone. And when he crossed the finish line, he literally had to be held up by his coaches and his teammates because he ran to the very last breath he had before he almost blacked out after every single race. He gave full out. Now, how about you? Are you going full out in your business? Are you going full out in your mission, in your calling, in your purpose? Or are you guilty of relying on your competition to take you to the next level? Now, college football starts this week. And some teams are notorious for bringing in weaker opponents so they can lift up, give their guys an easy game before the heavy schedule. But what tends to happen in those games for a time is the team plays to the level of its competition. If they don't respect the opponent, they will play like they don't respect the opponent. And there are times they have a hard time getting excited for playing that opponent, and they get sloppy. And then there's other times when they're playing a nationally ranked team and they go all out and give their best game. They may not win, but the competition raised them to the next level. And I've seen that in my own life. I remember running a race, and I was a runner collegiately in high school, cross country and track. And this was a high school race. It was a tri-meet, and 7 of the top 10 places from districts and cross country were racing against each other in a mile. It was a stacked race. And the number 1 runner in the state, he won the state championship, and he was also our district champ in the mile, was in that race. So he was the favorite, clear favorite. And I remember that day on the bus heading to that event. John Jessen, what's up, my man? Glad you're here. So I'm on the bus ride to that event, and I remember saying as loud as I could on the bus, I'm going to beat, and I said his name, the state champ. I said, I'm going to beat him today. I'm going to beat him on his track. We're on his track. I'm going to beat him today in front of his home crowd. Well, my friends looked at me and said, whatever, LaRue. LaRue, his times are faster than yours. He's the state champ, and they gave me all the reasons why I couldn't win the race. And they were based on fact. They had all the facts. They said I couldn't win the race, but they didn't know something inside. Inside, I knew I'm winning that race today. I'm going all out. I'm going to win the race. What's up, Deuce? And so the race happened. Here it is. We take off. We are all bunched together. We're all bunched together, everybody looking at everybody else, measuring everybody else up, knowing that we've got 7 of the top 10 runners in this race. And so everybody's jockeying for position. It's real tight. Nobody's making a move. We're on the 3rd lap now. The mile is basically 4 laps. So we're coming around the 3rd lap, and I'm actually boxed on the inside. I'm probably in 7th or 8th place at this point. But everybody's bunched together. It's playing out just the way I wanted it to. And I got my move, and I went to the outside, came up around the corner. I come up to one of my teammates, and I remember telling him, hey, are you ready to come with me? I'm making my move now. If you want to come on, but I'm going. And he looked at me and said, nope, go get him. So I took off, and I did what a runner should never do. I passed people on the corner, on the outside corner, coming around. We got down the home stretch, and I blew by him. I blew by that state champion like he was standing still, and I crossed the finish line. 1st place. And I'll never forget that moment when I crossed the finish line. I kind of turned around and looked back like this and started running backwards, and I looked at the stands where my friends were, who were saying, he's the number 1. You can't beat him. And I remember looking at them, and they just did this. They were just like this, because unfortunately I was pretty arrogant in high school, and they knew I was going to give them an earful on the whole hour bus ride on the way home. But to prove a point, I believed I could win that race today. That day, that time, that group of great runners in our conference, and I won that race. Now, my time wasn't a great time, but the point was I said and I believed I was going to win that race, and I did. I went out and did it. That's the power of competition within yourself. Now, there's some races I ran, terrible. I had some terrible races against some terrible runners that I should have beat. But when I raced against those elite runners in my conference, I gave them a good run for their money, if not win, on most of the time. So, competition, but it starts in here first. It starts with what you see in the mirror first. Because if you don't believe you can win, you won't win. If you don't believe you're going to get that contract, you're not going to get that contract. If you don't believe you're going to make that sale, you're not going to make that sale. Doesn't matter what the competition does. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen. So today, put on the mindset of Steve Prefontaine. Put it on. Remember last week, I want you to put that one on too. I've been thinking about that all week still. Exhaust yourself in the mission. If you've got a mission, if you've got a purpose, then you can pour into it. It'll take out all the distractors. It will put blinders on and you'll be focused on what you're supposed to do. And then you go all out like Steve said. Somebody may beat you. You may get beat. Make them bleed. Make them bleed. Make them earn it. Don't give it away. Make them earn it. You go out, give your best effort, and you know what? Like Prefontaine, when he stepped on the track, everybody else around him was wondering who's coming in second. That's how unbeatable he was. That's the presence that he had on the track. That runners were deciding, okay, who's coming in second. They weren't even thinking about beating him. That can be you, my friends, in your professions, in your fields, in what it is you do. That can be you, but you've got to own it. You've got to take charge. You've got to believe it, and then you got to go out and execute. So there it is. There it is. There's your hashtag Steel Toes Required quote of the week from the man Steve Prefontaine. Go Pre. Love Pre. And so with that, I want your thoughts for a moment. What is it that you're wrestling with right now in this area? Is it competition? Is it self-doubt, self-belief? Because I'm your wingman. I'm your weekly wingman. Here, also, folks, call info@dennisleroux.org. If there's something that you need to work on, if you need somebody to give you some thoughts, work through some questions, or you know what, you just need somebody to listen. Let me be your wingman. Just had a few folks reach out to me this week, sharing with me how encouraged they were by these messages, but also encouraged by the results that they were getting. And I want to give a shout out to Holly Bach out there. Holly, congratulations on your accomplishment. Thanks for posting it on Facebook. I'm proud of you, my friend. Edward Reed, I'm also proud of you and what you're doing with your summer wellness. And hey, Melanie, I love your podcast. Keep doing what you're doing with your podcast. And also, let's see, I saw Deuce out there. Deuce, you got your book coming out. Congratulations, my friend. That is awesome. Proud of you. So you guys are doing things. You're doing great things. You're moving forward, and I'm proud of each one of you, and I'm glad that each one of you that watch this each week, give me feedback and comments. I welcome them always, and I appreciate you. And so with that, let's bring in the blessing, and we'll call it a Sunday night. We'll see you next week. So here it is. I pray the blessing of bread that you know no hunger. I pray the blessing of salt, that your life would be flavorful and that your life would be flavorful for others. I pray the blessing of wine, that joy and prosperity would be yours and that the love of God would be your portion this day and forevermore. Folks, thanks for watching the hashtag Steel Toes Required quote of the week. Again, my name is Dennis LaRue, your weekly wingman. Take a moment and share this with your friends. If this message added value to you and would add value to folks around, just please take a moment, hit share, and just give me a shout out. Let folks know what you learned from this and how it added value to you. And with that, thanks so much. Have a great night and exhaust yourself in the mission and go make some people bleed this week. Go all out. Take care of your business. Have a great one, everybody. Good night.